You've been listening to my friend Chuck too much.
It's true. I do have
Just
a
reinforcement.
Oh my God! I can't tell you. If I had a nickel for every time he says, "I got it, I got it, got it," understand?
Yeah.
Because I tend to over-explain, and by over-explain, I mean I go on and on and on about the point that I'm trying to make.
Back in 2005, I think it was, I was working on a scaffold that was maybe 4 feet off the ground. Because I was on camera, the safety compliance manager on site told me to put on my harness. When I pointed out that the safety line attached to the harness was longer than the distance between the ground and me, he said, "Don't argue, safety first." Later that same week, another compliance officer, this one with the Department of Natural Resources, interrupted our shoot to insist that I put on a life jacket while installing a culvert and a runoff pond. Now, the water in the pond was less than a foot deep. When I asked him to explain the need for a grown man to wear a life jacket in 10 inches of water, the compliance professional said the same thing: safety first. From 2004 till 2008, the Dirty Jobs crew visited more hazardous work sites than any other crew in the history of television. From crab boats to coal mines to factory floors to construction sites to the very tops of the tallest bridges to crocodile-infested swamps. And during that time, we sat through dozens of mandatory safety briefings. We all became intimately familiar with all the basic protocol: lockout, tagout, confined space, fall hazards, respiratory precautions, PPE, the endless checklists, etc., etc. Through it all, trained professionals were always on hand to remind us that our safety was their priority. For a while, the whole safety first mantra worked pretty well. We managed to deliver 3 seasons of Dirty Jobs with no accidents. Then, in season 4, things started to unravel. Stitches, broken bones, sprains, contusions, falls, a damaged eardrum, second and third degree burns, and many more near misses. It was weird and scary. The job sites were no more dangerous than they'd always been, but the mishaps among my crew were skyrocketing. One day, I came across this study that concluded the most dangerous traffic intersections were those with signs that told pedestrians when to walk and when to wait. Intersections with no such signs were statistically safer because people were more likely to look both ways before crossing the street if there was no blinking sign to tell them when it was safe to do so. They call it a risk compensation, this idea that people subconsciously maintain their own level of risk equilibrium by adjusting their behavior to reflect the changes in their surrounding environment. So when the environment around us feels unsafe, we take fewer chances, and when that same environment starts to feel safer, we take more chances. Statistically, motorcycle riders with helmets drive faster than motorcycle riders without helmets. They take more chances. Anyway, that got me wondering, when these compliance professionals tell us over and over and over that our safety is their priority, wouldn't that tend to make us feel safer? And wouldn't that in turn prompt us to assume more risk, thereby making us less safe? I think that's exactly what happened to me and my crew. We got complacent. We bought into this nonsense that somebody actually cares more about our well-being than we do. We were crossing the street because the sign told us it was safe to do so, and we were staying in the crosswalk, but we weren't looking both ways. In other words, we were in compliance, but we were not out of danger. And that could be hazardous to your health. Bottom line, guidelines are great, but they're no substitute for common sense. Just because the sign says 55 miles an hour doesn't mean you should drive the speed limit in an ice storm. Your safety is your responsibility. Anybody who tells you something different, they're not protecting you. They're protecting themselves. I believe that my safety is my responsibility. I understand that being in compliance does not necessarily mean I'm out of danger. Yes, yes, hello? No. Buy. No, sell. No. Buy, then sell. Good.